Our scripture today, we're actually going to have two scriptures, but our first scripture today is this one from the Epistle of James. That's in chapter 5. It says, "Dear brothers and sisters, you must be patient as you wait for the Lord's return. Consider the farmers who eagerly look for the rains in the fall and in the spring. They patiently wait for the precious harvest to ripen. You too must be patient and take courage, for the coming of the Lord is near." You know, I said I would never do this, Mary. I don't plan on these things. I don't plan on them at all. But I've got to start with a lot of apologies around, I guess. I got a lot of folks to, I'm sorry. This message, I wish it had there was something to it. It would come together. So I'm going to ask this question to you guys right now. Who has given the message before? The message, okay, that this is what I'm doing right now. Who has done that? Just two of us. And Dan. Okay. Wow. Well, then you guys know. Okay, so have you ever zigged and you didn't know how to zag? Mm-hmm. Or you zigged so far that you didn't zag back, or zig too much, or something like that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, one day maybe you guys will know that. A little too much, a little zigging and maybe not enough zagging. Anyway, this is not going to be, I don't know. I'm distracted. It's been one of those weeks, one of those times. It started last night. I had one of those long shifts at the hospital. It was 12 hours at the hospital. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, I like those shifts that are real lazy, where there's not going on a lot. No code blues or code oranges or code greens or any of those other codes. It's just easy, and I can just watch football on the YouTube. That's a great day at the hospital. It was not like that yesterday. It's just busy. One patient after another patient after another patient. And so if you notice with the hymns that we sung, the ideas that I had today, what I really wanted to come up with in the message today, what I was planning, is to tell you basically the secret of life, the universe, death, pretty much everything that you could possibly realize. No, well beyond that. Well, that's the beginning, true. But truly to tell you everything, what happens when we die. Because as a chaplain, that's what I deal with a lot of folks at the moment of their death. And I wanted to tell you exactly what happens to folks when people die, and postulate perhaps what happens afterward. That was sort of my goal when I sort of woke up this morning, to tell you all these really incredible stories, but it just didn't work out that way. Maybe I woke up on the wrong side of the bed or something. I don't know. What happened is I was sort of tired and maybe didn't have enough coffee or something like that, and my dog woke me up around 6 o'clock in the morning. Early. Crack of dawn, if you know what that is. And so Boober's licking my hand, wanting to go out, and I'm like, all right, I'll take you out. I'm going to take him out. All right. If you've known, I've threatened to eat my dog for a number of years now. That's an eatable offense, waking me up that early. And I remember I was going outside, and I noticed, gosh, it's early in the morning. It's chilly. I needed a jacket or something like that. I didn't have one. I didn't even prepare for it. Who would have thought that it's feeling a good bit like fall. Gosh, what is it? Is this the 18th?
I think so.
Yep.
How many days till we have? When is it? Is it the 20th or the 21st? I can't remember the exact. What is the day of the equinox? Which one? David?
I think it's on Thursday this year.
All right, yes, but okay. Anyway, we're close to it.
Yes, we are.
It's
going to be 90.
And it's going to be 90 degrees. Isn't it? That's so ironic how it changes like that. It's that time, though, that when you think about fall, it's that time that we're going from sort of the brightness to the coolness, to maybe the dimness, to more of a darker side. And it makes you need those holidays like Thanksgiving and Hanukkah and Christmas to get us through these times. All right, I've got a question. Okay, so it's going to be about fall, about this autumn and such. If you were going to, when you say the word for the season, if you were going to describe the word for the season, what word do you say? Like if you were going to say to your friends, "Oh, it's such a beautiful blank."
Glorious.
No. Do you say fall or do you say autumn or fall? Who do you say autumn?
I say autumn.
Autumn. Okay, yes. All right, it's sort of interesting how. Okay, so here we're going to do this. This is what I would do in my substitute classes when I was a substitute teacher. All right, we're not going to do it here because I think maybe we're a little bit beyond that. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see if we have to do it. Because, friends and the way friends work and they look around and stuff. Anyway. All right, so who says fall? Like, this is a great fall day. All right, who says autumn? Who says it's a glorious autumn day?
In the mountains and when I see the color of the trees, I'll say it's
when you're
fall.
seeing
But
exactly.
otherwise it's fall.
All right, so for the most part, with Americans, we will say fall. It's just generally that's what we say. In different areas of the world, they say different. In England, they would probably say autumn would be the primary way that they would describe the season. Do you know how we get the word fall? Does anybody know how we get the phrase fall? Yes.
Maybe because of the falling of the leaves?
Yes. Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's right. It actually is sort of a German word, and I don't speak German, but it's sort of like fail or something like that. And it means to actually sort of the dropping of something. And so that is true, and it is, and in fact, it really is a good word. It's a word that we've been using in English. It's been the primary word for this season for many English speakers since about the 1500s. That's the first time we see it written in the English language, is in the 1500s. And by the time the 1600s are around, it's the most commonly way you refer to this time period. So like if we had asked George Fox or Margaret Fell or Pennington or whomever, Barclay, right? What season are we in? He would have said, well, we're in fall. We're in fall. Makes sense. The term autumn, for a popular sense, didn't really get into the lexicon. I mean, it's an older word. It's an old word, but it didn't become popular until the early 19th century. Maybe the late 18th century, right after the British colonies and the American colonies, or hold on, no. The British, the Queen, all right, England and America split, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Anybody watching the Queen stuff? Okay. And so when they split like that, we retained the old word fall. And they sort of developed a new one, maybe a little bit more, whatever. Autumn. Does anybody know what autumn means? No. All right, I'm looking to you, David. What does it mean?
No. It's all yours, Philip.
Oh, really? Yes.
I have an idea.
What is it? What do you think?
I think, I'm under the impression that it might mean the time of transition.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to look at it, but I don't think so. No, but that's a good way. I like that metaphor of it, but it actually means the time of profit, the time of bounty, the time of blessing,
Harvest.
the harvest, as it were. And it makes sense. You know, if you'd ask somebody in the 1200s, in our English-speaking lexicon, what this time period is, before they use the word fall and before they use the word autumn. So, by the way, autumn is from the Latin autumnus, which means like blessing or growth or profit. But before they did that, they would have used, this is the season of harvest, of the gathering in of the crops, of the bounty, to celebrate this moment of bountiness and harvest and things like that. And you know, and we think of the harvest in terms of this bounty, the bringing in of the crops. But the way they would have seen it, especially the further you go back, it's the harvest is from a specific type. It's the plucking. It's the time you are plucking. And you can imagine in the medieval world, that would be the time you and your family and most everybody would have been plucking grain or some sort of thing. Harvest season. You know, it's sort of interesting how when you look at things, how different ideas and words change the way you think, the way you approach something. You know, lately I've been a bit melancholy, a little down. I don't know if you guys can understand that at all. I don't know. It's just, I had my birthday recently. My birthday was just about a week ago or so.
Well, it was a week ago.
Yes.
Well, it was a week ago, you're right.
Sunday.
And I turned
50.
49.
49. How do you remember this stuff? It's crazy.
We write things down.
Because you and I are 12 years apart.
12 years apart. I don't know if you noticed, but I've got a few more gray hairs than I had the last time I was here. And I think I'm going to say this for the first time in my life. I feel like I'm in the autumn of my life. Y'all are laughing. Y'all are laughing.
Oh, I love you, poor child.
But hold on. I mean, don't we have either spring, there's summer of life?
You're in the late summer of your life, Philip.
Gosh, I feel every bit of autumn. Every bit of autumn. I'm 49 going on 65. Okay? That's what
Do you groan when you get out of bed?
I think I got shoes on.
I got scars older than you are.
But if it makes me think, if this is the autumn of my life, is this the beginning of the autumn of my life, then I'm just going to ask the question, where's my blessing? Where's my bounty? Where's my harvest? I'm sick of not having a harvest. You know, it's like I pray for all of these. I pray and pray and pray. I'm praying and I'm doing all this stuff. God. You know how many people I've worked with? Where's my harvest? I'm driving a 20-year-old trooper around. Just paying the bills, just trying to barely get. Does God, where's my harvest? This is the autumn of my. You know, I was going to go through this. I was going to talk about the different festivals along the way, you know, the liturgical year, and how you're supposed to give first fruits. You know, I don't have many first fruits. All I got is bananas with spots on them. Where's my harvest? Where's my autumn? Because sometimes I just don't feel it. God, where's the harvest? Have you heard about inflation? You know, it's not just me. Sometimes I look at, you know, I just wonder. I mean, we all these spiritual seeds we've been planting. All these prayers, all these gifts that we bring, and where's the harvest? You know, yesterday I had this big long shift at the hospital. I got the big long shift. I don't have anything to do. You can only be on Facebook so long. And here they give you a paper. So I'm reading the paper between now and the next code blue or whatever. And I see a little bitty thing. It's the little thing they have in the church section on Saturday or whatever. And I saw the little thing. Winston-Salem Friends Meeting. And the light of God in every person and everything like that. And I know how we've talked about it. We've done it year after year after year. What a beautiful thing. And I'm like, gosh, why aren't people seeing that? Why don't they just read that and say, gosh, I gotta see these people. How many years? How much small fortunes did we spend at NPR? not that. I mean, but some. Where's our harvest? Where's our blessing? God, where is it? You know, one of the people I met yesterday she's mad at God. She's mad at God. She's hot. She was what we call in the business having spiritual distress. That's how I would write it down, notes and things like that. Measure it, quantify it. 11. She's mad at God because her son, her 24-year-old son, has cancer. Leukemia. And the cancer is not killing him. The cancer is not what's killing him. He probably has survived the cancer, but the cure, the chemotherapy, has basically gone into organ failure. I mean, has been so hard on him, it's resulted in organ failure. And he's a person who may be dying. He's intubated, if you know what that means. And she is mad. She said, heck yes. I'm mad. I'm mad at God. I'm mad for all those prayers, for all those church services I went to, for all those times I sang in the choir. I'm mad. I'm mad at God. Why is my son dying? Why is he like this right here? And she said, Chaplain, I'm going to ask you to pray for something. I'm going to ask you to pray for a miracle. I'm going to ask you for God to save my son. Now, I didn't tell her that in the business. We're not supposed to do that. We're not miracle workers. You know, I've always had a hard time doing that, praying for a miracle. But sometimes you just feel like you have to pray. You have to share. You have to try. That you must do it. And so we prayed for that miracle. We said we weren't so proud enough to beg. We were begging for that miracle. That her son will breathe on his own. that his body will heal. I recently, the thing with this kind of chaplaincy is I'll never know whether those prayers were answered. It's just going to be a mystery to me, and I'm not even allowed to ever find out. That's the crazy thing. It's just unknown. Asking for miracles. Recently I went to Chattanooga Friends meeting, my meeting that, I've been a part of it for a zillion hundred years, and there were probably like 20 people there. It was a world record. It's a world record. And I was the youngest person there. And I remember they were talking about some crisis that had developed. There's some crisis going on in Philadelphia, yearly meeting crisis, something like that. And I was like, gosh, we're not talking about the real crisis in our midst. There's the real crisis. You know what I think that experience taught me last night is sometimes you have to pray for a miracle. You got to be open to miracles. You can't be so proud enough not to beg. It's sort of like as a chaplain, I pray all the time. I prayed for probably thousands of people. But I find it so hard, really hard, to ever pray for myself and my own blessing and my own reward and my own harvest. So much in life, I've always put sort of God last. I ask God last after I'm going to figure out all the checkbooks and all the pennies and all that, and even when I don't necessarily figure it out, I always seem to go to God last rather than first. It makes me wonder if I really want God's blessing, if I want God's harvest, why don't I ask for it? Why do I never ask? Maybe I'll say, God, why didn't you bless me? Why? I was such a good dude. And God will say, well, gosh, you never even asked for a blessing. I didn't even think you needed it. You were praying for all these other folks, but you never even really started praying for yourself. I thought you were okay. This year I'm praying for something different. I'm going to go this season. I'm going to go it from a different direction. I'm praying for a harvest, for a blessed, bounteous, beautiful, overflowing, amazing harvest. I'm open to it. I'm asking God, not just for myself, but God, that'd be great. But also for this people, the people I see in front of me right now, each one of you, I wish you would the absolute most blessed harvest this year. Blessings overflowing. And I just pray that you have the audacity to ask God for that harvest, for that blessing, for that bounty, for this people, for Winston-Salem Friends meeting. That's what I ask. It's interesting to ask yourself the question, well, where do you find the blessing? Where do you find the harvest? Where do you find the ground? And here's what I say. This is what I say to each of us right now. This is what Yeshua says. He says it in almost all the Gospels, but he says this where he said to the disciples, the harvest is so great. It's so great. This is when he's working just hour and hour, healing people and healing people and healing people. The harvest is so great, but the workers are so few. So pray to the Lord who is in charge of the harvest and ask him to send out more workers for these fields. And that's what I pray for myself and for you and for us, is that we will be workers for God and God's beautiful, bounteous harvest.